Welcome to the Gospel According to podcast, the first and only podcast looking at the intersection of pop culture and the Christian faith. I'm Dan Ulrich, joined as always by my co-host. You may know him as Who Can Take a Rainbow, Wrap It in a Sigh, Soak It in the Sun and Make a Strawberry Lemon Pie, Dave Hallahan can. Dave Hallahan can.
The Candyman can. I can because I mix it with love and I make the world taste good.
That's right.
Yes.
That's what we're supposed to do as Christians, right?
We're just, there you go. That's the Gospel According to Willy Wonka. We'll see you next time on.
We are doing the Gospel According to Willy Wonka, and I'm going to start out flaming hot take, Dave.
Oh, no. Okay, we're ready. Buckle up, people.
I might be the only one that thinks this, but the Gene Wilder version of Willy Wonka is superior to the Johnny Depp one. I said it. I know.
Dan, that's out.
Haters, come for me in the comment, haters, but that's what I think.
That's out there on the internet for everyone to hear.
I had to get it off my chest.
Bold stance. Now, when we talk about Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka, I mean, it's an all-timer. Like, it's got to be, I don't want to put a number on it, but like, we're talking about one of the all-time greatest performances ever. Most memorable, most legendary, like so tied to that person.
Iconic, quotable.
Yeah. I mean, it's great.
Something. Hell, police, murder.
The dry deliveries, like, so good.
That one and the no, please don't stop.
Yeah, no. And that one, I think he's like eating. No, please don't stop. Yeah, so good. And like, well, I guess we'll get into it, but there was something going around on the interwebs that were like, post a picture of like the two fictional characters that best describe you, or like to help people get to know you. And like Willy Wonka is always, and Corey Matthews was the other one, but like Willy Wonka was definitely a formational character in my life.
So you're the intersection of Willy Wonka and Corey Matthews.
Yes, that Venn diagram is just me hanging out in the middle. Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. So much time, so little to do. Wait, strike that.
Reverse it.
So you started, you got into a little bit as a formational character. So what's your history with the Wonkaverse?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember like, oh, I was this old the first time I watched it or whatever. That's not really how my memory works, but I don't really remember a time before I was aware of Willy Wonka. Definitely like as a child watched it. And there's the songs, there's candy as a kid. So you're like, yeah, like this would be great. Every kid's dream, just like get to live, kind of have free access to a candy factory. But then as I got older, probably into teenage years and young adulthood, like just the character of Willy Wonka makes that movie and is an aspirational character for me. Maybe not for all the wrong reasons, because I don't want a factory where I lose a bunch of children, but like that
in a world of OSHA violations.
But yeah, just this wonderment, this have you seen the clip of Gene Wilder, an older Gene Wilder, talking about that role and how he talks about when he first makes an appearance in the movie and he walks out of the factory and he's limping with a cane and the cane gets stuck and he loses it, and then he goes into the forward roll. Yeah,
the somersault. That was his stipulation on.
Yes,
he would play this character if he could start like that.
Yeah, that was his idea, and he wouldn't do it unless he could do that. And he says, like, from that moment on, you don't know if you can trust this character. And like, especially as Uncle Dave, and a little bit even as a father, that is how I like operate with children, is like, you just don't know if I'm serious or not. Like, you don't know And more as a parent, it has like betrayed me. I'm like, this is not the best of tactics. But as an uncle, it's great because like my nephews, oldest two nephews, are like 16 and 15 or something like that. But when they were younger, they would just be like, "Oh, crazy Uncle Dave," and like walk away. Like they didn't know how to interact with me. But that was very much like a Willy Wonka kind of aspect to me. But yeah, so it's played. I love it. It's probably one of the movies I've seen the most. But how about you? Why do you hate it again? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, with what you're saying, the unpredictability, like that's what I love jokes of. So
Yeah.
when we were, I was senior year of high school, we got a new youth pastor. And so during this time, we would make lots of videos. That was our thing. This was pre-YouTube. That's why I'm not a millionaire right now. We would make these funny videos for youth group. I would show them in school. And so we had a new youth pastor coming, and we were having a welcome party for them. And so we snuck into Sam's Club. We didn't have a Sam's Club card, so we like just followed people around, and we got this big like gallon of chocolate pudding. And then we show this video of us like dropping the pudding, like putting extra stuff in it. And then the video ends with just showing people at the church event eating this chocolate pudding that we had doctored up and spilled on the ground and scooped off the ground back into the bowl. And at no point did we say we switched it out with a regular pudding. We just showed all these people eating this chocolate pudding directly after us, putting X-Lax in it and spilling it and touching it with our hands and things like that. And so I just think that's the funniest part, that at no point were we like, no, this wasn't the same chocolate pudding.
Yeah. Keep them. What are the kids saying these days? Never let them know your next move.
That's right.
Like that's strong Willy Wonka vibes right there. Like you never know what's next with Willy Wonka.
Yeah. So same with you. Like I grew up watching it. There is a book that was written before, but there's a movie. So why are you going to read
why do that?
And then the glass elevator. So never read those, but definitely had some of those scenes imprinted in my mind of him biting the cup flour and just like eating the cup of it. The song, which I memorized at one point, of him on the boat. There's no earthly way of knowing like that whole kind of creepy vibe. Like, so learning that. But yeah, so it was always part of the mainstream of watching it, thinking about it, having some of those pictures and Gene Wilder's way of being funny, being unpredictable, being snarky, having a quip for everything, being quick-witted, things that I probably more subconsciously than you looked to or aspired to.
Yeah. In the AIM days, AOL Instant Messenger, like emo song lyrics and Willy Wonka quotes were my away messages. Like those were my go-tos.
Dave, do you think heaven is going to be like the room where everything is eatable?
Edible. You can eat it. Yeah, sure. That would be great. And calories don't count in heaven either, I don't think.
Everything in this room is edible. Even I'm edible, but that would be called cannibalism, which is looked down on in most societies.
John describes, like, he says a sea like glass. But maybe it was just like he didn't know candy at the time. Like maybe it was just like crush. It was like pop rock candy or something.
Streets paved in gold.
It was just
eggs.
It was golden eggs, or it was just like the paper dots, like the dots on paper. It was just that, but they were all yellow.
Where you're eating just half paper, half candy.
Yes. We'll have
are we sure that the chocolate factory is a fun place, Dave?
I mean, I think that it depends on you, how fun the factory is. I can think of some people who probably didn't have such a fun time in the chocolate factory, but I don't think that was the chocolate factory's fault.
Not
or even Willy.
not the OSHA violations part.
Well, nobody ever came in, nobody ever went out. That included OSHA. They were kept very far. This was set in a pre government oversight time, when the people were truly free.
Are we sure that Wonka isn't participating in some unfair labor practices?
Do we have any hints of this? I mean, we know that they have Oompa Land. That's not a place. I'm a geography teacher, so you know all about it. They come from there, but like they were being attacked by, I forget what kind of animal, but could eat a couple of them at a time. So I think he actually saved them. We don't know what he's paying them. It could be very fair labor wages.
It seems like that is the conqueror rewriting history there, Dave, saying, no, yeah, I saved them. They were being eaten alive, and now they work and they love making chocolate.
Yes. Willy Wonka, the first colonizer.
Right.
The nicest he wasn't the first by far, but the nicest.
Maybe that's why we haven't heard of Oompa Land.
Maybe you're right,
because that was what natives called it, and he changed the name.
Yes. No, I can enjoy the rabbit holes of what happened to these kids that are never seen from again, and was he using unfair labor practices? But suspension of disbelief,
In real life, though, there's some horror stories of the making of this movie.
Are there? I don't know that I'm aware of them. Tell me.
Violet Beauregard, the paint she had on her face, it took months to get off. Like, she was purple for months after the filming. Just some of the props, like the train that ran on ginger ale and ginger ale and ginger beer was like, gave them all like skin rashes, and some of them had to be hospitalized from that. So there's just some of those types of stories. But inside the movie, as a chubby kid from German heritage, I want to put this out there. Augustus did nothing wrong. Augustus did nothing wrong. You walk into this room, and what does he say?
Everything's eatable.
Put up a sign, put up a handrail or something here. Wonka,
provide spoons?
What are we doing?
Maybe. I don't know.
You literally just sang a song about the wonders of this. You said, go ahead, go eat everything. And then all of a sudden, you can't eat the huge chocolate river. No signs, no guardrail.
He got a raw deal. You're not wrong. And as you're saying that, he could have eaten his way out of the tube, I guess. Like, that's edible too, right? Everything's edible. So
yes. So one of the reasons that we're re-looking back on this, other than it being a great movie, is that there is the prequel coming out with Timothy Chalamet.
I don't know, something French.
And so we wanted to get ahead of this, because if we waited till this movie came out,
right,
I would have to, phone would be ringing off the hook, that they're not on hooks anymore, but Google it, all you Gen Zers out there.
I saw a payphone today, by the way.
Nice. So getting ahead of this prequel coming out, we wanted to answer the question that we know is going to be coming up.
Right.
We are anticipating something that is going to happen. And so we want to put this out there so that you are prepared as you go and watch this movie. So Dave, what is the gospel according to Willy Wonka?
So I think there's several different gospel adjacent tracks that we could take. I think there's some false gospel ones as well. The first one that comes to mind is a false gospel one, but then I have a positive outlook as well. So I'm going to play a clip I prepared for this episode, folks. Here we go.
But Charlie, don't forget what happened to the man who suddenly got everything he always wanted.
What happened?
He lived happily ever after.
Now that could actually be positive or like true gospel or false gospel, depending on your interpretive lens there. But it always struck me as like, I mean, it fits in the movie and it works well in that universe, but like also not necessarily the message I was always given as a kid of
Right.
like, go get everything you ever wanted and that'll finally make you happy. You know, you tend to teach kids at a younger age, and especially depending on what brand of Christian upbringing you had, like you might have been taught the exact opposite. Like you can't ever have anything that you ever want because your heart is deceitfully wicked above all else. Um, and then here's Willy Wonka telling us that the guy who got everything he ever wanted lived happily ever after. So, but I do think there is kind of that um, almost like prosperity gospel line through it. Like Charlie is poor, and his family is, you know, very poverty stricken and not happy. He's got to work as a little boy to help provide for the family and help his freeloading grandparents and all that. So then, you know, he gets lucky, but he's a good boy, right? He's the
Mm.
well behaved among those that are there, and therefore he gets the factory, he gets everything he ever wanted, and he lives happily ever after. So there is kind of like a works righteousness prosperity gospel kind of theme through it that I think would be not in line with the true gospel, but I do think the like positive gospel themes that I see are that redemptive moment that Charlie has at the end,
Mm.
where, you know, he did break the rules, and all of them, all the kids broke a rule. Charlie's didn't lead to his unfortunate and untimely death like the rest of them, uh, but he comes back with contrition, with a contrite heart, and he gives back the everlasting gobstopper and shows, you know, that he actually cares about Willy Wonka. And so I think that is a good gospel message, that what God is after is not our perfection. I think so often we think that that's what it means to be a Christian, or that's what it means to like be more like Christ, is that, well, we just sin less or we do everything perfect. But I think Charlie is kind of what it should look like to be a Christian, which is that we're going to mess up and we're going to fail. But can we admit when we're wrong? Can we be faithful to those we're supposed to be faithful to? Can we be faithful to God? And can we be, you know, good stewards of what we've been given, own up to our wrongs, seek forgiveness, extend forgiveness? And so I think that ending moment is a very like, I don't know that Wonka is necessarily Christ-like because he yells a lot, but it is just a very Christian moment, I think, that what Wonka was after was not someone who was perfect and who would follow all the rules, but he was just looking for someone who could have a good deed, right? So shines a good
Finds
deed
feet in
in
a
a
weary
dark,
world.
weary world. Yes. Um, and so I think that's the positive gospel message, is that it's not perfection that we should be after. It's faithfulness to the cause of Christ. And we're going to, on that uh, attempt to be faithful, we're going to mess up and we're going to fail, but can we own it when we're wrong?
Yeah, and once again, I don't know if Wonka's contract is really going to hold up in a court of law. Uh, Seems like the kids were signing it under duress, and you couldn't even read the writing on the bottom uh, of it. So legally, I don't know
It's
how
binding, it is.
if it's a binding contract. But yeah, we kind of see this imagery, like you're saying, that there was this failing, this breaking of the contract, and how is that going to be redeemed in that? But I love the kind of overarching theme of this person who is Willy Wonka, who has this chocolate factory, who has kind of this power or this influence or this great job or this persona, and he's looking for an heir. He's looking for somebody to come along and to be his helper, and to somebody that has the same heart that he does. And well, it's kind of squeezing it and not fully making it an allegory of God and us, that we serve a God who wants us to have the same heart that he does, to see people the way that he sees people, the love that Wonka seemingly has for the Oompa Loompas and has for making chocolate and being that candy man that can um, brighten up people's days, that he's looking for an heir that would be in it for the right reasons. Those same reasons of making kids happy, of making great chocolate and candy to brighten up the dreary world. As you see the kind of contrast inside the factory, bright colors and kind of happiness and things like that he's trying to bring that out into the very monotone sepia gray lifestyle that many of these kids, and especially the ones in poverty, are living, to brighten them up. That God is calling us after his heart, to have his eyes to see the world, to see people the way he sees it, and to bring that gospel news to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Wonka as a Christ figure is hard to make work, but I do think like Charlie, I was struggling to find the comparison, but David came to mind as you were talking, because like David is referred to as a man after God's own heart, but we also know David to be a deeply flawed man and figure, and those two things can exist in the same person, and you know I would say, not that I'm big on ranking sins, but I would say David's sin was a little bit bigger than Charlie's. But Charlie did sin, right? But what Wonka saw was a boy after his own heart that was of in the same vein as him, despite that breaking of the rules. So
Yeah, and he was repentant of
right,
that, and he didn't want the gobstopper to fall into Slugsworth's hands and in turn would hurt Wonka. So
yeah,
even though he wasn't given what he was hoping for, he enjoyed the time and had this kind of love or admiration for Wonka to not want to see him hurt by that getting out.
yeah. Can we talk about Slugsworth for a quick second? Like,
Well, we don't know who Slugworth is.
well, my apologies. The man who pretends to be Slugworth to
Okay.
set up the whole ruse with Wonka. How does no one ever question what this guy's doing?
This
Like,
creepy guy directly after they're opening, he's
like Mr. Salt. Like, it's in his factory, and like, and how did he know where all of the golden tickets were going to be? Were they all planted? Like, did Wonka plant them so that these people would all get them? And like, they're purchasing the chocolate bars. So how did Wonka make sure they purchased the right ones? It runs deep. Like, you thought the abduction of Oompa Loompas and the OSHA violations, that was just the tip of the iceberg.
No, I think they're running this big operation that they have to have tracking numbers. They know where cases are being
Okay.
shipped out
Yeah.
To that region, and he's kind of just following it around. But I mean, chocolate bars sent to every corner of the earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
5 Caucasian kids, Dave. I'm just saying.
Yeah. What are the odds there? That, and who would do that but a colonizer?
All right. In that vein, you want to play a game?
Wait, no, not if it's in the vein of racist colonizing. I will play.
How would you rank these colonizers, Dave?
I will play a game.
All right. We brought this up last episode, and so I wanted to just do it again, just so that now that you have the gist of it.
Yes, the blind ranks.
Dave, would you kindly rank these blindly?
Yes.
Wonka edition. So I have 5 of the fictitious candy treats that are shown in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I want you to rank them 1 to 5 without knowing which comes next.
Okay.
Number 1, exploding candy. So this we see Mike TV biting into it and flying back into
right
a bunch of boxes.
Yeah. So I'm ranking them in like how one would be the one that I would want the most.
Yes.
Okay. Exploding candy. I think I'm gonna put at 4.
All right.
I just want to leave room for something that's worse. There's a couple that came to mind that maybe might be in there, but I'm going to go exploding candy 4.
Okay. Next, fizzy lifting drink.
Mm. Now that we know the secret, you just got to like burp. Like, I think we could leverage this.
What are you going to do? How are you leveraging this? What are you going to do with it?
Fly.
It's more floating. You can only go up and down. You can't go left and right.
Well, they kind of like swim places in the air.
No, they try to, but then they're just going directly
with
into
modern science, I can just drink some fizzy lifting drink and bring a battery operated fan with me. And if I'm just floating, I could even plug in it with a long extension cord. I think this could be fun. It would at least be a fun party trick, if nothing else. I'm gonna go 2 fizzy lifting drink.
All right, so we have fizzy lifting drink 2, exploding candy 4, lickable wallpaper.
Mm.
The schnozberries take like schnozberries. What's a schnozberry?
Snozberries. The snozberries taste like snozberries.
There you go.
3. Like this is, it's not, there's no downside to it, right? I don't see myself licking this very often. But yeah, I think I'm pretty net neutral on this. So I think 3 is a good spot for it.
Would Leah let you put this up in the house?
No. I make it like a corner of a room or something.
I think you have this way too high.
You would go 5.
Yeah. I mean, the first time through maybe, but then you don't know who's licked what.
Yeah.
What fruit, and then you're just licking. It's like,
well, and I wonder like how well does it do? Like if I disinfect the wall, does it still taste like snozberries, or does it now taste like
disinfection?
Yeah, disinfectant. Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe there could have been a 5, but this is what happens when you blind rank. We'll reevaluate at the end. I've got it 3 right now.
All right, next, the 3-course meal gum.
Turning into blueberry pie aside, I think I'm going 5 anyway. Like texture and flavors matter to me. Like you should not have gum that tastes like roast beef. Doesn't matter how realistic that is. I love roast beef. I don't want it in gum form. So 5. Like I don't want that. No.
My one daughter, I think Abby or whatever, is like, oh, because they love eating steak as well, and they're like, oh man, I wish there was like gum flavored steak flavored gum that you could just like chew. I'm like, that is disgusting. That's like,
yes, that's
very
disgusting.
Getting a chewy piece of like that already exists. Just get a bad piece of meat, and then you can chew on it all day, and it will not go away.
Yeah.
All right.
But if you want pumpkin spice flavored gum, who am I to say that you
3-course meal? No, unless all the courses are pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin spice, right? Pumpkin spice roast beef flavored gum. Sure. I mean, who am I to say no to that?
In that case, yes. All right. So your number 1, you are left with the everlasting gobstopper.
Look at that. Nailed it. That's what matters.
So you have everlasting gobstopper 1, fizzy lifting drink 2, lickable wallpaper 3, exploding candy 4, 3-course meal 5.
Yeah. Maybe I swap wallpaper and what it was for the exploding candy, because that's at least a good like prank. Like Mike TV was fine, he just got jolted back a little bit, so
until he had to go through the taffy puller.
But that wasn't because of the exploding candy.
Because little boys are elastic or pliable. My problem with the everlasting gobstopper is when they're holding it, that thing's way too big.
Yeah.
Like you can't put that whole thing in your mouth
It
at
looks
once.
like Jack. What's the game?
Yeah, Jacks.
Yeah, it looks like one of those or something.
But it's like too
But it's
big.
too
Like,
big. Yeah.
but it never gets smaller.
Yeah.
But then if you're holding it in your hand, you got to think. Then your hand's going to be sticky.
Right.
And stuff's going to be sticking to it. I just don't think it's practical. You need to make
Yeah.
that thing smaller.
I concur. Like the Gobstoppers that came out at some point after the movie, but make them actually everlasting.
Yeah. Could you do that? Could you make them actually?
Yeah. I'm working on it.
All right. Last game. Will it preach? Wonka edition. So I'm going to give you a quote from Willy Wonka, and you're going to tell me, will it preach? And maybe the context in which you would preach it, or the Bible story that you would relate it to. Are you ready, Dave?
I'm ready. First
off, if the good Lord intended us to walk, he never would have invented roller skates.
So before this preaches, I will say that some version of this quote I use all of the time. Like whenever someone's talking about something, I'm like, the good Lord wanted us. Basically, it's when there's something I don't want to do. I'm like, if the good Lord wanted us to talk, he wouldn't have created TV or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah. Okay. So if the good Lord wanted us to walk, he wouldn't have created roller skates. All right. I'm going to say this will preach, and this will be like a message about kind of the false binary of the sacred secular divide, and how as Christians we should be we shouldn't just full on embrace everything that the world has to offer, but we can't like just deny it either. That we have to take what God has created humans. He's created us to be creative. So as we create things, as Christians, we should see how we can adapt those things for the sake of the kingdom.
So you should take the things in the world and seek to view them through the lens of the gospel.
Yeah.
In a way of intersecting these two things together.
Yes. And then talk about it for many people to hear.
Very good. All right. Next one. Little surprises around every corner, but nothing dangerous.
Yes. This will preach.
Is he lying here?
Yes, he is. He is.
Nothing dangerous, really? You sure about that? Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Maybe that was the fine print, is that if you follow all of my rules that you can't read, then there's nothing dangerous. But this will preach. Little surprises around every corner, but nothing too dangerous. I would just talk about, maybe this is like the book of Acts. Like there are wild, like Acts was like wild times. And certainly like little surprises around every corner, but nothing too dangerous. And with the caveat, it's kind of the same thing, right? You sure about that? You sure about
with
that?
The caveat of 11 of the 12 disciples were martyred.
And John didn't exactly have a great time. No. But that danger is kind of rendered moot. Romans 8:18. Is it 8:18 or 8:12? It's in Romans 8. You'll find it. Just read the whole chapter. It's a good one. But Paul says that I consider these present sufferings to be nothing compared to our future glory. And so danger may be your middle name, but it's also relative, and relative to the glory that we will receive as inheritance from God. There is no danger that we can face.
Right. What can happen to us here on earth, right?
Why fear those who can kill the body, but not the soul?
Exactly. Good stuff. All right, next one. This is an audio.
Okay.
If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it.
So yeah, this will preach. And I think this would be a message about how the hope of for Christians is not to go somewhere else. That being a Christian is not, well, when I die, I go to heaven.
Mm.
If you may die, you probably will die. Statistics show you will die. And you will be present with God. But that is not your ultimate landing place. Scripture talks about how God, through Jesus, is reconciling all things to himself, and that even creation groans. And when we get to the picture that we have in Revelation, the picture is not of God destroying earth and starting over. It's about renewing the earth that is already here. It's not earth going up to heaven. It's actually the heavenly city coming down to earth. And so this, look around, this is your paradise. It is, I think, part of our job to make this paradise. We are to be a part of the reconciliation of all things. But this is it. This is
Yeah.
our paradise.
Your kingdom come on earth as is in heaven.
Mm.
That's the prayer. No, that one's good. And that idea, like you were saying, he came that we would have life and have it abundantly. And so that salvation, that eternity, that kingdom of God begins at salvation. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't, it's not when you die. Because if Jesus didn't care, if God didn't care about us spending that time here on earth and being with that, then it would be like if we were saved, then boop, we would just go to heaven right away.
Right. Yep.
But there's something, about living here on earth, and that we would look around and view it, serve where we're at, share God's love with those that are directly in front of us. Just
Mhm.
look around and view it, and God has something for you in that. All right, last one. A little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men.
This will preach, and if you have an ignorant congregation, just pass this off as a proverb. Like you don't even don't open your Bibles today, folks.
We have it on the
Proverbs
screen.
Proverbs 32 verse 7 says, no, but I do think this will preach. A little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men. That's the quote, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is probably, I don't know that I would like use this as a full launching pad on like a Sunday morning message, but it is a general message to Christians, which is like relax a little bit, like it's okay. Like you're allowed to have fun. We've talked plenty of times on the podcast how joy should be an integral part to the Christian faith. And as Christians, we should be the most joyous people. So like have some fun. And sometimes not everything has to be serious. I know like I've been with people who they always want to have like these like heavy conversations and like deep theological debates. And I'm like, can we just watch the Phillies playoff game? Maybe like, let's just like, yeah, this doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Can we enjoy that for the moment? So yeah, I think embrace the nonsense every now and then.
And especially, I think we've both done youth ministry, and sometimes the knock on it is, the nonsense, like just give them the Bible, just read the Bible with them, and you need to be teaching them this things, and enough with the games and enough with stuff like that. And yes, there's a place for that, but there's the tension in that. When we had Josh Griffin on, he talked about that, kind of games being the great equalizer of making people feel welcome, making kids drop their walls and interact with them in such a way that they feel loved, they feel cared for, that you're given a platform to at that point then present the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just, okay, for the hour and a half I have these 13-year-olds, we're just going to be reading and doing a Bible study, I think we're going to lose their attention, and we're not going to be able to interact with them in such a way to then be given the platform to share about Christ.
Yeah.
Or even sometimes doing like youth group memes and things like that, you get the people like, you can't joke about this, or it's like, okay, I mean, some things, yeah, we probably can't joke about, but other times, like, yeah, just relax, buddy. Here, it's like It's a clip from The Office, which with like a couple words over top of it. It's not that serious. Like
the Lincoln assassination just became funny. I didn't see this play. Like I need a hole in the head.
yeah. So you just calm down, a little nonsense, a little fun. Jesus, I think the scriptures show us he had a sense of humor, that he was laughing, that he was having fun, that there was time with serious, and he was always, serious about the serious things. But there's a relationalness, and a little nonsense is good every once in a while. It's relished by the wisest men. Well, thank you, Dave.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, T-Gatters out there, for joining us for the Gospel According to. Remember to follow us on all social media platforms that exist or have ever existed: Instagram, Facebook, Zanga, MySpace. Dave mentioned AIM. Find us on there at TGAT Podcast. Find us on Wonka Vision, where you'll be able to see us, and we'll present you something through the screen that you can grab. Thank you for sharing the Gospel According to with your family, your friends, and your lazy, degenerate grandfather sitting in his bed with a tobacco habit that can't get out of bed to work for a starving family, but can miraculously make it to a tour of a chocolate factory while he's just laying there. Put on the Gospel According to for him.
This is reminding me, I'm just going to do a little back padding here. And when we had Alan Noble on for getting out of bed, and I worked in Uncle Joe or Grandpa Joe into the end. That was well done by me. Okay. You can also send us a mailbag question on any of those socials, or by emailing tgatpod@gmail.com, where we will promptly send you a contract that you have to sign, or you can never ask a question again. And then we will answer that question here on a podcast. Make sure that you're doing your part in obeying the Great Commission by helping us spread the gospel according to podcast. One great way to do that is by leaving a 5-star rating and review. No risk of falling into a chocolate river, no risk of turning into a blueberry, no risk of falling into the incinerator. It's one of the safest activities you can do. Just don't do it while driving. Leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen, and be sure to leave your own review, and you can hear it here next week on your favorite Hump Day podcast. This was the Gospel According to Willy Wonka.
And sterilized so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
So you're the intersection of Willy Wonka and Corey Matthews?
Yes, that Venn diagram is just me hanging out in the middle. Oh, nope.
We missed one of my favorite quotes.
Wonka bits? Okay.
It's not from Wonka. He goes, when they're getting into the boat, Mr. Beauregard goes to Salt, and he goes, "So what business are you in, Salt?" "Nuts."
Nuts. Veruca, sweetheart, I'm trying my best.
Violet, you're turning violet. Violet.